Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Tuesday, September 29th, 2020, and today I'm going to be talking about the new report from the Cook Political Report titled The Electoral College Ratings Changes. Ohio and Iowa Move to Toss-Up. The reason why this is so significant is because Iowa and Ohio started out in the beginning of the summer, June 2020, as likely Republican states. And just in a short few months, Joe Biden has been able to take these states and move them not only from likely down to lean, but from lean to toss-up. And this state, the state of Ohio, was a state that Donald Trump won in 2016 by a pretty significant margin. He won it by a larger percent than Obama in both 2008 and 2012. You see, Donald Trump had a very strong victory in Ohio. He won it by 8.13%, and Hillary Clinton only got roughly 43% of the vote. Even Romney got higher than her in 2012, and in 2008, McCain ran above Hillary Clinton by 3%. So when we look at the 2016 numbers, Hillary Clinton just really lost a pretty significant portion of the vote in Ohio. Along with Ohio, so went Iowa, which actually went to Trump by nearly 10%. It was 9.4%. And this is the largest winning margin for Trump in a state that voted for Barack Obama in 2012. In 2012, Obama won it over Mitt Romney. In 2008, he carried the state as well. In 2004, it went to Bush. 2000, it went to Gore. So it had always been a pretty close state. But in a year where Obama had a decimating victory on the presidential level in 2008, you can take a look at this electoral map. Even Indiana was blue. Iowa went to the left. In 2012, Mitt Romney lost the election. Iowa voted correctly. In 2016, however, yes, Donald Trump did win the election, but we saw a very drastic swing in favor of Donald Trump. This went from being a +5 state for Obama to a +9 state for Trump, a 14-point swing from 4 years prior. Hillary Clinton went down to 41.7% of the vote. Romney enjoyed 46%, McCain 44%. Even in 2004, Kerry got 49%. So Hillary Clinton really lost a pretty significant portion of the vote here. Donald Trump did very well in Iowa in 2016. But now, you'd expect him to do very well. I mean, these states combined aren't too heavy in terms of their electoral presence. It's not a tipping point state for Joe Biden or Donald Trump, but I will say that it is crucial for the Trump campaign. It's not crucial for the Biden campaign whatsoever. What I mean by that is essentially Biden could just win with these 3 states. He doesn't need these, and he has plenty other routes to 270 than Donald Trump. But looking at these race rating changes, it is important to note that there are other states that likely could follow. There's a number of reasons as to why we see Donald Trump and Joe Biden in a toss-up race in both of these states. They talked about the 3 public polls that have come out in the last couple of weeks in Iowa. Right now, dead heat, 47-47 based off the Des Moines Register. In the New York Times Siena College poll, Biden was up 3%, and then the Monmouth University, Trump was up 6%. So it's fluctuating in terms of the polls, averaging around to positive for Trump, but nowhere near enough for it to be characterized as lean for Trump. Taking a look at Iowa in specific, you can see that Trump is only up by 0.7%. This is a state he carried, might I remind you, in 2016 by 9%. Ohio is the same case, except for the first time in a while, Biden is now leading in Ohio by 1%. In 2016, went to Trump by 8%. So that's a pretty significant swing. Not only are the polls showing that Biden is doing well in those states, well, Biden has now expanded his percent chance of victory in the presidency to 78%, and we're talking about the winding pathway to victory. You can see Pennsylvania is the tipping point state, but now Arizona, Florida, North Carolina, and now Ohio are all states expected to flip to Joe Biden, on top of Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan, but specifically Ohio. Biden is expected to carry it by 0.4%. It's not expected to be super close, but you can see just 2 states over, there's Iowa. It's expected to be one of the closer Trump states. In fact, the second closest Trump state out of them all. So Iowa, Ohio, right up there in terms of toss-up margin. They really weren't in 2016. So if we're looking at where the Democratic Party is currently leading, it's not just in the Rust Belt. It's now in Arizona. It's now in North Carolina, it's now in Florida, and now Ohio. And that takes 18 electoral votes out of the 22 that Donald Trump carried in 2016. Because if we apply this map to the 2016 numbers, you can see why it's so bad for Donald Trump to be underwater in these states. These are all of the electoral votes carried over from 2016. The states he won, and then the states where Biden currently leads compared to the states that Donald Trump carried. mean, if you add all these up, we should hit 306. Yeah, 306. And then you take Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania away. Well, that's enough to bring Trump down to 260. Except he's underwater in North Carolina, Florida, Arizona, and what used to be likely Republican states reliable for the Trump campaign are now leading for Biden in Ohio, or at least completely toss-ups, which means they're anyone's game before the election. And if we're taking a look at the Electoral College ratings, we can see that in the toss-up column, there are now 85 electoral votes. There are 33 in the lean Republican column from the state of Texas, and there are 48 electoral votes in the likely Republican column. Ohio and Iowa used to be likely Republican. They moved down to lean, which moved down to toss-up. This race moved further and further to the left as the months progressed, because there's nothing stopping the Biden campaign from trying to target these likely Republican states. They have the money to do so. We know that much. But these likely Republican states, which realistically weren't even remotely competitive in 2016, there are only 2 states under the likely Republican column that were decided by less than 15% in 2016. The rest were by a much larger margin. But still, the fact that these are likely Republican states, and Iowa and Ohio had the same exact characterization, means the Democratic Party could possibly make inroads. They could possibly win that lean Republican state, Texas. That's not out of the question. For the likely Republican states, there's 48 additional electoral votes that are not solid for Donald Trump. Think about it. Kansas, Missouri, Utah. Utah voted for Romney by 50%. In Kansas, Trump won there by 20%. In Indiana, Trump won it by 19%. It's likely Republican? Yeah. I mean, we're looking at a race that's not shaping up to be too beneficial for President Trump whatsoever. I'm trying to see if we can find the previous ratings on here. I don't know if we can, but I know that over time, these race ratings do change pretty significantly. Originally, looking at where the presidential race was before, I mean, we were talking about a close race. We were talking about Trump leading in Ohio, leading in Iowa, leading at one point in time, in Arizona, and leading in North Carolina. And now it's come to a point where the Biden campaign is doing very well in all of these states. Very, very well. And I will say that the Biden campaign has ran a number of ads in some of these states. They haven't focused on Iowa as much as I expected. They've spent way more money than President Trump. But they haven't spent over $1 million in Iowa, which I think is pretty surprising. But then again, it is only 6 electoral votes. So it's not exactly a make or break state for Biden, but I definitely think he'd enjoy being able to carry this state. We can take a look at the state of Iowa particularly, just because Iowa was such a solid margin. In fact, in 2016, I mentioned this in a lot of my videos, and I'm sure if you're a regular viewer, you know what I'm talking about. Iowa voted to the right of Texas. And now Texas is a lean Republican state and Iowa is a toss-up. But realistically, Texas is close too. I mean, Texas, Trump is only up by 1.8%. That is not good. You can't really draw that into being a positive. Yes, it's a winner-take-all system, but no one should ever be too confident in a victory in this state. I mean, Texas is Trump plus 1.8. You're going to ask, well, what about the Rust Belt states? Why are they considered lean? Why am I personally so confident Trump is going to lose in those states? Well, the numbers are drastically different. Wisconsin, Biden's up by 7. In Pennsylvania, Biden's up by 5. In Michigan, Biden is up by 7 as well. That's Minnesota, but he's up by 9% too. He's up by 7%. And based off the forecast, I mean, we're looking at Ohio possibly flipping, North Carolina possibly flipping, Florida possibly flipping, Arizona almost definitely, Pennsylvania almost definitely, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, New Hampshire retain in the Democratic column. But Biden has just won back a number of Obama voters that flipped to Donald Trump in 2016 that landed him a victory in the White House. Because what we've seen now with the addition of these 2 new toss-up states, they're joining the ranks of other states. I mean, we can characterize the electoral map based off these ratings. And you will see exactly why it is so bad for President Trump. Because for the toss-up races, we have 85 electoral votes. Florida, Georgia, let me characterize the Democratic states so we're not wasting time here, or so we're not confusing the numbers here. But in terms of all of the Democratic states, they should add up to 290. That's not out of the question. They are at 290 electoral votes based off where they are currently leading. And I believe that is with the Nebraska 2nd Congressional District. Yes, it is. And then you can see Georgia's a toss-up. Ohio's a toss-up. Iowa, North Carolina, Florida. That's where the 84 comes from. And in terms of the likely Democratic states, it's Colorado, Maine, and Virginia. And for the lean Democratic states, it's Arizona, it's Michigan, it's Wisconsin, it's Pennsylvania. It's all of these Trump states from 2016. All of the states Donald Trump was able to carry, which are now considered to be lean, which I think is super significant. I mean, this election is shaping up to be a very strong point for Joe Biden. The fact that he's at 290 already, which means the Republican Party would have 163 electoral votes considered lean, likely, or safe, but they would need 100% of the toss-up column votes, plus an additional 22 from the lean Democratic column, which means they couldn't just do it with Michigan. They couldn't just do it with Arizona or even Pennsylvania. They need Pennsylvania and then some. They need Minnesota and then 2 others. So when you think about that, the Trump campaign is at a deficit at this point. When we look at the races that are considered to be lean, there's Texas, likely Indiana, Missouri. I mean, I'm just going to fill out this map just because it really exemplifies my point that this election is shaping up to be very bad for President Trump. Very, very bad. And then for the safe states, obviously the remainder are there. But, I mean, looking at these numbers, yeah, they're not good whatsoever. In fact, Maine's 2nd District isn't even considered to be a Trump district. So it should be 85 actually in the middle. Yeah. So this is the map based off Cook Political Report, and Iowa and Ohio used to be a little bit of a silver lining for President Trump, not so much now, because he was still at a bad point. He was still at 187 with these 2 states, but with the addition of them, it is possible that others follow suit, because North Carolina, Florida, and Georgia moved out of the Trump column. Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania all flipped out of the Trump column. So did Nebraska's 2nd District. Maine's 2nd District has moved out of the Trump column. What's stopping from Texas, following suit? Because what we've seen in Texas is that it's still pretty close. It's not exactly a safe state for Donald Trump. It's lean, but it's not safe. So what's stopping Texas? If new data comes out that shows a closer race in Texas, it could possibly follow suit and become a toss-up state, which puts Trump down to 125, which leaves the possibility of Biden winning possibly 300 more electoral votes than Donald Trump on the map. And Joe Biden's not going to carry all of these swing states. I don't think that's going to happen. But what is going to happen is that he's going to do very well on the presidential map unless something changes very drastically. And something would have to change tonight at the presidential debate. Because right now, I mean, it's being held in, I believe, either Cincinnati or Cleveland, Ohio. But looking at these 2 battleground states, Ohio and Iowa, being moved out of the Republican column, it's a warning sign for President Trump. Because he has withdrawn ads from Iowa and Ohio. He's not spending as much money there as he should be. I mean, he spent $30,000 in Iowa. And yes, there are super PACs expected to swoop in and try to spend money on Trump's behalf. But the Democratic Party has a lot more money than the Republican Party on hand right now. And they're going to be able to shoot out a number of ads right now in the final stretch of the campaign season. And it's very hard for me to see Trump try to drastically turn around this election when he's losing states that were previously 8 and 9 point margins of victory just 4 years ago. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord link for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my other 2020 election analysis videos. I believe there's over 200 in there now. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.